Hey everyone, set 13 coming up very, very soon, like tomorrow. So that means it's time to do some preliminary decks, right? Make some decks to test them out with, and then, go from there, right? These are meant to be starting points. I always say this in every single one of these preliminary deck videos. These are meant to be starting points for you to test from, and then you can perfect the lists from there, and then I get to see them on hashtag VGTopDecks, all right? But yeah, there's quite a bit of power in this set. Like, this is a huge power creep set, I think. So every single grade 3 plus that they revealed in this set seems to be pretty relevant, except for one. And then, we actually have some Glyphagira stuff that is pretty anime, but is actually, I think, would be surprisingly decent, right? It seems pretty fun, and you can usually put it in every single clan now, I think. There's just something for everyone with that. So kind of cool, but let's kind of get started, right? Let's kind of jump into it and talk about all of the broken decks that are coming up. So first off, we are starting off with the Glyphagira. Oh, and by the way, all the deck codes will be below in the description. Use Japanese deck code, or you can just click the link. All right, just click the link and it'll be fine. Yeah, so let's start off with Glyphagira. I only made one, right? And it's going to be for Dragon Empire. Naturally, like, it's going with the old school idea where, run the best, play Glyphagira in the best overtrigger, right? Which is usually the Dragon Empire or the Brand Gate one. But I know some people have been testing out Token Rambu Glyphagira, which is pretty crazy because you have like restanding rearguards, so you can make it hold crits and all that. So there's that to talk about. But for this one, I only made one, and it's going to be for Dragon Empire. But I do think other nations do get some pretty good support. Like if you run this in Stoicaire, for example, because we have the red OT now, it basically negates the bad OT problem. And then you get some really useful tools where you can like bounce, you can call the Glyphagira and then bounce it back to hands, right? To get more Dragon Tree markers and all that. So that aside, like there's the possibilities are endless. So let's kind of just quickly talk about this, right? We got the Glyphagira setup. We have the new Glyphagira, the grade 11 instead of the grade 10. This one is pretty nice in that it's 18k base, so it's pretty hard for your opponent to attack into. It only gets 10k to crits, right, during your turn. But then if you have a combined total of 10 or more Hydragam units and Dragon Tree markers, right? So you have like 6 Dragon Tree markers and 4 Hydragam units. It also gets another 10k. So this can be swinging for 38k. And then it's got the normal Glyphagira effect where, like, every time you attack, you remove a Calamity from your ride deck. And if you can't, then you can activate a trigger, right? You can just remove a trigger and activate all its effects, right? And stand everything on your Dragon Tree markers. So that's pretty similar. But also creates a token. Unfortunately, they don't show the token now. The token allows you to salvage, to create Dragon Tree markers, put triggers into the ride deck, and also like get back units, Hydragam units. So what you do is, like, I think at the beginning of the main phase, you can just, I think it's like discard one and you can get back you can search a deck for a trigger, put in the right deck. So after you pop the over trigger, you can continue winning, right? You can continue triggering. Actually, let me just bring it up. So here it is. So yeah, at the beginning of the main phase, you may. So you don't have to. You may. You don't have to discard. So search your deck for up to 1 trigger unit and put it into the right deck, and then shuffle your deck. And if you put a card, choose a Hydragam from your drop, and you may call it to the rearguard circle, right? So just nice salvage, right? Get back a dude. Bear in mind also that the Glyphagiras are Hydragam units too, so you can get an 18k booster that just like base booster, which is pretty good. And then auto zone once per turn, you can discard a card with Glyphagira and its card name, draw a card and choose one of your rearguard circles and put a Dragon Tree marker on it. So it doesn't have to be an open one. You can start stacking them and then put the top card of your deck into the damage zone face down, choose a Calamity card from your right deck and remove it. So you deal yourself 1 damage to speed up the process of winning, right? So what you do is, like, you'd use this, you'd ride your grade 11, you can remove 1, and then on the attack you remove another 1, and then on the next main phase you can remove another 1 with the order again, and then you can start popping off, right? What you can also do is, like, you can ride 2 Glyphagiras, right? Ride 2 grade 11s to get 2 tokens, and then you kind of salvage 2 cards if you need to. You do remove crit trigger. You do like move like more triggers, but that also means you can discard like 2 Glyphagiras a turn to accelerate your Dragon Tree marker count, and that's kind of cool because it does reach the get more, once you build more Dragon Tree markers, right, you'll reach that second effect condition where, you know, the combined 10 Dragon Tree and Hydreigon gives +10 on your Vanguard. That also applies to your opponent's turn. So the moment you can kind of reach like 7 Dragon Tree markers with 3 Hydreigons in the back row, it becomes very, very hard for your opponent to hit you at all, right? So it's a way to kind of accelerate the game plan. Otherwise, the rest of the deck is just, you know, what you'd expect. You run all the Dragon Tree Wretches, so 4 each. Because you run the grade 2, it kind of searches for a mask of Hydreigon, so you might as well run like 2, which can also help you search for other Dragon Tree Wretches, which is nice, right? Which is nice. And this, yeah, builds a marker. These all have to build like open, right? So you won't use their effects all the time. You just probably build like, you get 2 from the starter. Yeah, you get 2 from the starter. And then you play 2 of these to build, like put 2 in like the back row, I guess. And then after that, you can just start stacking on the front row. Because I don't think you'd be boosting your Vanguard at all, pretty much. That's what I think. And then just kind of go from there, right? You have the nice Blitz order. And then the rest, yeah, you have PGs and all that. You have the new grade 3 that gets a bunch of power. You have like a couple of flex slots. So I chose like 2 of this guy because you have to call it on a Dragon Tree marker. I guess like you can just run more because you're always going to have Dragon Tree markers anyway, right? Also run like 2 of the over trigger remove. Even though you'll never use the second effect, it does allow you to draw a card. Like CB1, draw an extra card. You don't really use that much CB at all. So yeah, it's just a way to kind of draw a card or like retire something very annoying on your opponent's side of the field, and it always hits over triggers, right? With that said, let's move on to the deck that kind of beats this deck straight up, and that is Jiva. Jiva got a lot of support, right? A lot of crazy support. Basically, with the new Strav Arena, this deck is just carrying everyone, well, everything. So it gives your Vanguard triple drive, nice. It gives it 10k, gives this 10k. So it's like bashing your opponent really quickly. It also stands like everything on your side of the field pretty much. So, you know, when it gets stood by your Nirvana, you pay CB1 and stand the rest of the board. So yeah, just 5 attack your opponent ASAP. The prayer dragons we are running 4 of the Aparisia. So this is new D-BT13 support. It lets you search for another prayer dragon pretty much. So it's just so easy to build a whole field. And then when you like overdress it, you give your Virita dude like fake resist. So pretty good against Urtai heavy meta. The other prayer dragon we run is Graymira? Grayrumia? I don't know how to say it, but this is grade 1. It helps you, it like, when you overdress it, you Soul Blast 1 and look at the top 7 and grab up to 2 Varinas, right? And add 1 to hand, and then, you know, discard the rest. So it does help you grab more Varinas and put 1, like, if you get 2, you at least put 1 to the drop zone, which is relevant because, you know, Mirage needs Varinas in the drop zone, basically. And the one offer you run is just this dude. This is just gives your, when you overdress it, it gives your top card Battledore, like 2-card guard. So it works pretty well with, you know, your Strahd because, you know, you attack with it twice, so it's very annoying for your opponent to have to guard it twice. It does, like, the whole entire deck overall doesn't require that much CB, right? Your Jiva requires a CB, your Strahd requires a CB to stand the whole field. If you don't, you only get like 4 attacks, which is still pretty good because your Strahd is hitting pretty massive numbers. Your whole deck kind of like just builds a board for free, right? Your Jiva can discard 1 to build more. And then this guy, when he comes out, can build more. And then this can just get more stuff. So yeah, more, right? And then there's basically like 2 flex slots. And that is just this. I'm running Bills, right? I think you can run your favorite arena. Pick your favorite arena. I ran Bills just because it has built-in kind of resist. And also salvages a card. So, you know, you just get more stuff. It's also a arena name. So it helps Mirage as well. So yeah, just kind of pretty straightforward, very, very good now. I think probably one of the best decks. You'll rarely use Strawberry's like 5 overdress effect unless you're actually against Glyph and Gira. Then sure, go for it. But just go for like the 3, and then, you know, that's all you just need. Front rows bashing, right? And I was like, some things I thought about was I was thinking of like cutting down on Trick Stars, but I just feel like, you know, let's keep it at 4 for now. We can think about cutting it when we're more comfortable with the deck and know what changes we want to do. And then I think I haven't mentioned this, but with the trigger lineup, you can choose basically what you want. As I always say, I'm running draws for this just because I want to see pieces. But also, I'm running basically every one of these decks. I'm running 2 of the restanding heal, right? Because basically there's a lot of restanders in this current format, except for Youthbag. So yeah, this is just probably a nice 25k shield, right? So, but you can change that to whatever you want. If you hate these kind of heals, just change it to a normal heal, right? Yeah, that's pretty much Jiva in a nutshell. Very, very strong now. Next deck will also a very strong deck. This is Dreduled. Dreduled grade 4 is probably the easiest deck I ever built in my life, right? Now, I'm not saying this is the perfect deck, but you'll see why. So, you run the entire ride line of Dreduled, then you run 4 of the new grade 4 Dreduled, because it's like amazing, and you kind of want more grade 4s, because it needs to Soul Blast 5, right? But so it needs like 0 to 4, right? Basically needs 0 to 4. But the cool thing is that, you know, in the beginning of the battle phase, you literally just like soul charge. You pick 2 cards from your drop, and then you put them to soul. So you pop them out, and then you put them back to like the previous turn to use the effect, and then you pop them back into soul. And then if your soul has like 4 different grades, right, 4 or more, it gets plus 15k. So, well, your front row gets plus 15k. So that's great, right? Because you like restanding, and then just like bashing your opponent. You get triple drive as well. That's so good. But you know, that's only 2 soul. How do you get the last 2 soul? Well, there's this grade 3 that revealed, which is pretty much just like built for grade 4 Dreduled. So it has a come into play effect. You reveal a grade 4 in your hand, right? And then if your Vanguard is grade 4, it doesn't matter, right? So basically it's always going to work. And then you come to play Counterblast when you draw 1, and then you pick 2 cards from your drop zone and then put them in soul. So you literally play this every turn, and then you do the Vanguard effect every turn, and you're good, right? You're good. So, yeah, that's pretty much what you do. So play this every turn, do this guy every turn, and then pop your opponent every turn, right? Now, there's also other cards that you want to run. So this new guy is basically like your replacement Impusa. When you Soul Blast like 4 or more, you put this card into Soul, draw a card, and then afterwards you show a grade 4, or if you're you show a grade 4, right? And if it's or if you have a Dreduled Vanguard, Dreduled grade 4 or higher Vanguard, you basically stand one of your reguards. Basically stand one of your reguards. Right? That's cool. That's cool. And then it doesn't work on Impusa because it has the same effect as Impusa. Because, you know, if you haven't stood another regard, then, you know, you can't stand it. But you use this effect first, and then you combo with Rocket Ghoul, and that's how you get the 5 attacks. Right? That's how you get the 5 attacks. So ideally, you put this guy behind this guy, and then, you know, you stand like that, right? And then there's a bunch of other support. Run 4 more of this support. This one is just a grade 4 searcher, but if you top 7 search, but if you don't hit, you can like draw a card pretty much. And this guy lets you grab a card from Soul. So, you know, guess what goes into Soul is this dude. So, yeah. It's a come into play. It's just a come into play. I don't know. Yeah, come into play during the main phase, right? You can basically so just call this guy out, and then, you know, that's you loop-de-loop, right? And then what else do you run? So there's a 4-bit ol that you can run. This basically grabs the grade 3 that you always want, which is this guy. And then you can always grab the grade 4. So you thin your deck, or you search for the target that you need to ride next turn. So that's great, right? And then after doing all that, there's like one free slot. So I just ran a ride line returner because, you know, it's extra defense, pretty good. I like extra defense. Also counter charges, right? So the one-off counter charge, if your opponent decides to damage deny you, then the one-off counter charge might come into play and help you out, right? Because you want to Rocket Ghoul and then, you know, also do the dragon in return. But if you don't, or they keep you at like 1 damage, then surprise, surprise, you have 1 copy. If you drew it, then good times. Otherwise, you just do 4 attacks. Yep. Next we have is Leonorn. So Leonorn is also amazingly good, right? What we're doing with this deck is it's base unison dress. This thing is busted. It's Vanguard restand like your front row, 6 attacks, easy mode, right? CB1. And then the rest of the deck is just kind of rushing your opponent away. So we have like 4 of the mushroom to push your opponent's damage high. And then we have 4 of this guy, not guy, but the fairy. Creates more plant tokens, but also gains power. So when it attacks, right, you pick, if you have a Leonore Vanguard or Granthea Vanguard, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3, like so many restrictions, and you pick one of your back row reguards and it gets the power, you add the power of that card to this card. So you just, it's just a nice beater, right? It's just a nice beater. You have the PR, because in Japan they have the PR, and you know, it's coming out in Japan. This guy's just really good, right? It just draws you a card, it gets a bunch of power, it's a nice target for your fairy, right? So it just does everything. You run 4 of it, it's a beater as well. And then you run 4 Resonance Dragon, because it makes like the 7th attack if you really wanted to, because you do actually want that 7th attack. And then we have we only run 3 of this new the new double R, right? This new unit is interesting. It's 10k, which is cool. It's 10k. It can become 13k, but also counter charges, right? It also counter charges. It replaces itself too. It's like a retire, draw 1 counter charge. I actually don't think you CB too much. Like the game won't last that long. Sure, Leonore and Vivace requires 1, Resonance Dragons requires 1, so that's 2 CB a turn. But apart from that, you don't really use that much. So this is pretty nice for when your opponent damage locks you. Then you just always confirm that you have something that you can do. You can always put on pressure. And then the other cards that I ran, I put in 3 Misty Hawk habitats just to, you know, search for key cards, and then lets you rush early, right? Like this mushroom just builds a field for, from nowhere, and you can just push your opponent damage high. When you reach grade 3, unfortunately this Leonore doesn't restand, but you have a Resonance Dragon, so you can still make 4 attacks, right? And then afterwards, hopefully your opponent's damage is high and they have to just guard everything. It just makes it really, really awkward for them, right? Really, really awkward. So just rush early, and then the grade 3s is just the finishes, right? And it's just really potent finishes because there's a bunch of multiple attacks. If your opponent's even if your opponent gets like a damage check, right? You don't have to restand like your 2 reguards in the front. You pick your Vanguard to restand, then restand like a column, right? Or restand a booster behind Vanguard. It's all good, right? It's all good. Just you can, as long as you put on pressure, it's fine. Next we have is Youthbag, right? So this is pretty much the biggest I guess roller coaster that we've all been experiencing. Wow, Full Blast sucks, and then after you reveal the sport, Full Blast is good. So how are we building this? Put in 4 of each of the support, right? Because they pretty much just put stuff into Soul. Hope you don't damage check a Zest. If you do, then scoop it up. Yeah, just full blast. Just keep on blasting. So some of the ratios you can actually do with this is you can lower a full blast to 3, right? I just kept it at 4 because I want to just full blast every turn. You can actually lower a Tempest to 2 because of your support. There's so many ways you can kind of, you know, get Revel forms, right? And then are you really gonna need 3 Tempest, right? You're gonna need 1 in Soul. If you ride a Tempest, I already feels like it feels bad because you're not riding a Full Blast. And I guess the other thing is you can add 1 Zest so you don't get screwed by the damage check. Like that one-off damage check that very rarely happens, but it might happen, that loses your game. So yeah, so you might be able to just change this to 2-2-2, or you can go crazy and go 2-1-1, which lets you add a bunch more other cards in deck. Or you can actually just change the ride line return. I just added in because it's an extra defense card, which is cool, I guess. You can just replace this for another Zest if you're really worried about it. But I think it's fine to even go lower if you want to be really, really risky. If you want to put in things like Schneisel and things like that, that's fine. I feel like there's already enough search, so you don't need it. And it also requires a CB, so it kind of conflicts with, you know, your CB usage. Although you don't actually use that much CB at all, right? I think the biggest thing that people can do to you is they damage lock you so they don't die to a first turn Full Blast. So I guess there's that. So running a Schneisel kind of conflicts with that. Your stuff is good already, right? This gets extra power. If you need to, just call down other grade 3s to attack with. So yeah, or just move up a Sequana, you know. So it's okay. I think it's fine. Otherwise, it's fine. I think you have a bunch of cards. Yeah, but I think that there is a way where you can remove 1 Tempest, remove 1 Returner, add in like 2 more cards that you want, and then I think that's like probably the flex there, right? And the flex would be like an extra zest if you're very scared, and then, you know, 1 more of the other card. But other than that, this is pretty much a deck that kind of builds itself. Just mulligan for your support, and then after that, full blasts. Just full blast all over your opponent consecutively, right? That didn't sound right. Anyway, next we have is Alden. This is kind of a this is the black sheep of the deck, of not of the deck, of the decks, right? To come out. Like, what is an Alden? I don't know. It's a thing, right? What you do with this deck is Alden itself has a CB1, Soul Blast 1, you know, call, draw 2, and then you can bounce. You Soul Blast 1 and bounce a card, and you can call a column whose grade sum is like equal to or less than the card that you bounced, right? So the combo is you will bounce this dragon, right? I think it's light wreath dragon, right? And then you call like a 2 and a 1, and then that's cool. All right. What this guy does also is that if you have an Alden Vanguard, it gets boost, and then at the end of the battle, an attack or boost, you can soul in another card in the same column as this, and your Alden gets 10k. So you soul in a card, you bounce this dude. There's an empty column, so you don't lose any cards, and then you can call like a 2 and a 1, and then ideally you probably call him, right? Because he gets like plus 15k when he's called by an effect rather than plus 5k. And then you can call like maybe her, right? She's pretty cool. When she comes into play, she gets 2k. But you know, if you discard 1 as well, you countercharge 1. You don't really counter blast that much though, right? The only counter blast you actually have is just Alden's effect to kind of draw 2, which I think you want to use every turn just to kind of go through a deck. Then I just put in like things like Chakrabarthi, which lets you kind of build like just generically good card, does use CB. And then we have, I guess, the Cycler. You can cycle, but also just check. Has it like helps you check top 2, right? Helps you check top 2 to confirm a trigger. It's fine like that. And then, you know, I run 2 old Aldens, right? It does use a lot of CB, right? Let's put it this way. But you kind of use it as a finisher, so you can search for it, or you know, you just naturally draw into it. When you bounce your grade 3, you call like this guy. And then you can use its effects and then call another grade 3 down on the other column. And then you make 5 attacks instead of 4. So there's that. And then, you know, we also have just 2 of this angel, Wayward Therapy Angel. If you discard it, you can, you know, it's just a solid 10k booster, right? And although you can't call it from hand, normal call, yeah, Alden's effect actually gets around that. So you can just use the first effect to call her out, and then she just kind of sits there as a solid booster all the time. Or like you can use, you know, her effect to kind of just discard this and then call around on the other side. And then when you're doing that 5 attack combo, you can like boost like that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a few ways you can do it. And then with you have the Forbital, you know, Regalia. So it just calls your good grade 3s. And time to go, right? I mean, you can call like the Alden as well and just bounce it back into hand. Or you can just use the Alden and then just draw more cards, right? There's a few ways to do it. But yeah, it's this. Mainly use this guy as a finisher, and the rest is just like a solid 4 attack deck. Budget deck, probably, to be honest. Actually, if it's running Calibrays, then it's probably not much of a budget deck. So you can maybe just replace it with something else. I don't know. You can run like, I think you can run the grade 2 cycler cards that require you to play an order, and then you can just run the order that keeps on coming back to hand, but gives like 2 cards 5k, right? So there is that too. But yeah, nice. And then the last deck we're going to show for the day is Avantia. So this one is pretty straightforward to build, I think. I decided to run 4 of the new Richter, right? And that's just because I want to see it. Ideally, you don't need to have 4 of it, because you'd Soul Blast. You'd not likely just Soul Blast it from Soul, I think. And then you can use this new card to just kind of counterblast 1 and just get it back get back an Avantia every single turn. So you're always going to confirm Persona Ride. And then, you know, you're always going to have this guy in your hands. But I do just want to see it, right? And his effect requires you to discard 2. So eventually you can just use the grade 1 to kind of just add these grade 3s to him that you can just use to discard. This effect is just, if your opponent's at grade 3, you can just reveal this from your hands and then just bind your Vanguard Avantia, so your grade 3, like this guy Avantia, right? And then, you know, you ride it, and then you get all the effects of the bound card. So basically, you get the restand and the way to put strategy into soul. Right. So then, and then at the end of the battle attacks, if your soul has the Sora period, dude, you can discard 2 and then ride the Avantgarde from the bind zone, and then stand it. It gets 10k and drive -1. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna copy the effects. You're gonna use the copied effect restand first, and then you get a drive -1, and then you attack with that with 1 drive, and then you will ride the Avantgarde again from the bind zone, and then that gets to attack again. And we won't have the red text though, because it just doesn't have that red text. You didn't use it, but that's how you get that 3 Vanguard attack. So just make sure to do the sequencing properly. And then what is the other stuff? Well, you know, we always run this guy. This guy is just amazing. Always counter. Just the counter charge just makes all counter blast costs irrelevant. And then we run the PR as well. This is coming in English, so good times. But this basically is all our kind of orders. And then we have a few of these. Just you have the cycler. The cycler's good, and also searches for the strategies, right? And then with what you want to also do is that every turn you just want to persona ride, because the persona ride will stick before, you know, and then you go into this. So yeah, cool. Extra 10k. The strategies are just 3, 2, 1, right? One of the grade 1. I think the strategies can be changed. I do want to also point out the 3, right? This one. So you know, your Vanguard gets the effect of on attack. It gets like plus 5k. But the 3rd attack, you ride the Avantgarde from the bind zone, right? So that won't have the red text anymore. So you still didn't get like the double plus 5k from this effect. But ideally, that's why, you know, that's why you have her. She just gets a bunch of power, right? Best girl. So that's pretty much, I think, yeah, you can probably change the strategies how you see fit. But overall, that's pretty much, I think, how you can build the deck. Definitely some changes if you want, right? Just running other stuff. There's quite a few good stuff in the Brandgate arsenal. Yeah, but that's all the decks from set 13, right? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sure you guys can find even better ways to build these decks. I trust you all, right? But this is just, I just think this is a good starting point from now. This is where you can go from here and then just get better and better, right? So cool. That's it from me. I'll see you all at VG Top Decks, and see you next time, right? Bye.